हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। श्रीनिवास प्रभु, जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
चंदन प्रभु, दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
दंडवत प्रणाम माता। हरे कृष्ण, जय श्री प्रभुपाद। Okay, I think we can begin now. मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। पंचतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपा स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। Okay, so we are beginning the 5th chapter today. It's called the purity of devotional service. This chapter consists of 3 topics. The purity of devotional service. How do we understand how pure it is? Then what is the mystery of Vaishnavism and how the path of bhakti is supreme. So we'll begin with the purity of devotional service. Okay. Purity of devotional service. Bhakti is not dependent upon birth, no material cause. So this is something during the earlier time, it was considered that only those who are born in a Brahmana family can actually do deity worship. Or they would say that actually the process of devotional service is dependent upon birth. Or another misconception that was there is those who are not in Brahmana family, they can get initiated, they can chant the holy name of Krishna, but they cannot worship deities and they cannot become a spiritual master. So there were a lot of restrictions. And Nityananda Prabhu has a son, his son. So there is a Vamsa that was coming. That it's called Nityananda Vamsa. Um, when the last time I went to Ekachakra Dham, which is the birthplace of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, there one person introduced me that he is the 14th or 15th descendant from Nityananda Prabhu. So previously there was a conception that who will lead the movement is based upon birth. Somebody coming in Nityananda Prabhu's lineage generation, they are qualified to lead a spiritual movement, and whatever they say should happen. So there were a lot of considerations of birth. Good birth means they are qualified. Just like, um, in material sense, we see that the son becomes the next king and the next son and the next son and the next son, which is all right. Um, but when it comes to a devotional service, it's not based on birth, but it is based on um, one's own purity of devotional service. There are many examples, like Haridas Thakur was born in a Shudra family, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the name of Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur. He is the authority on the holy name. Um, Narottam Das Thakur was born in a Shudra family, a pure devotee of the Lord. And there are many stories about Narottam Das Thakur. And he had many disciples. Shyamananda Pandit was not from a Brahmana family. He was a spiritual master, had many disciples. So there are many examples in the past where bhakti or back to Godhead is not dependent upon one's birth. All people can become Brahmanas, else purity of devotional service is checked. Like some people say that I can give initiation, like some people, those who are gurus in other sampradayas, they say that we can give initiation, but we cannot give Brahman thread. Brahmin thread, you cannot chant Gayatri. To chant Gayatri, you have to take birth in a Brahminical family also. So they make Krishna consciousness limited to the family. And that's one reason even Srila Prabhupada was very much spoken against when he came to the West, and he made hippies who were drug addicts. Naturally, there is no caste system in the West, but they were drug addicts. They had illicit relationship, smoking, and intoxication is their daily activities. But Prabhupada, by the process of devotional service, he gave them the adhikar, the qualification, to actually take sannyas, do deity worship, lead a temple, or various activities. And he took all these Western devotees to India, and many people criticized Prabhupada for giving them sannyas, because they would say that sannyas is only a Brahmana can take sannyas, others cannot. So there were a lot of such conception of devotional services getting restricted by, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not um, um, discriminated on a birth level. Otherwise, why would he give Haridas Thakur? Why would he make him Nama Acharya, Nama, or the personality who would exemplify the holy name? And in the recent past, this thing was actually quite prominent. To give one small example, there are actually many examples that can be spoken in this direction. Um, Okay, now here is a small story from Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was a Brahman. His name was Subudhi Roy. And this Brahman actually was an adopted child under a king, under a Muslim. So when he was very small, Subudhi Roy, his parents left the world or something. So he was like Anath. So um, one Muslim ruler, he adopted this child, Subudhi Roy, and then he brought him up. Um, at one point of time, Subudhi Roy made a mistake. So this Muslim ruler, he um, one second, I'm trying to see what was the um, yeah. So this small child who was adopted, he made a mistake. So the Muslim ruler, he actually took a hunter and he bet him on the back, just so that the child does not make the mistake again. And just it was just one instance, and then the life passed on. So this younger adopted child who was Brahmana by um, um, okay. So now uh, the story is a little different. So the person who was the king, he was a Brahmana, or who adopted the child, and the child was a Muslim. So he was very kind, this person, but he adopted a child who was Muslim by birth, but he was Anath. So he gave him shelter and he bet the Muslim child on his back because he made some mistake. Later on, the child grew up, he got married, and his wife saw that on his husband's back there is a scar. So she asked him, "How you got a scar?" So he said, "That's because my adopted father, he bet me once because I made a mistake." So the wife became very angry and she told him that you have to punish him for what he has done. So this man said, "No, actually, I made a mistake, and in order to teach me, he taught me." But the wife was very envious, so she said, "No, how can he touch you? You are my husband now. You have to take the revenge." So he was influenced, this Muslim boy who was just married. So he asked his wife, "What should I do?" So she said, "You take the water from your pot and throw it onto the Brahmana, the father, the adopted father." So during that time, the caste system was so intense that if somebody throws water from a pot where water is drunk by a Muslim, just throw water on somebody else, it would be assumed that their caste is changed and they also have been degraded from Brahmana to a lower birth. So there was very strong casteism that time. So he did that. He took a water and he threw it onto Subudhi Roy, and Subudhi Roy was that father. So Subudhi Roy became very concerned and he asked the Brahmanas saying that one Muslim child, he threw some water from his pot on my head and I have lost my caste. What do I do? And they would give him many options like, "Oh, that's a great insult. Now you are a Muslim. Now you cannot perform Vedic rituals and rites, cannot worship the deities, cannot chant the Vedic mantras. You have been disqualified." So he became very much concerned. So he said, "What do I do to rectify?" He said, "Well, there is no rectification. Now you have to drink hot ghee and burning boiling hot ghee." So this Brahmana said, "If I drink boiling hot ghee, I will die." So they said, "Yeah, because ghee is all pure. If you drink burning hot ghee, you will die, and your next birth will probably be a Brahmana. Then you can perform these rites." So people will give him such advice. It was such a strong casteism. And then later on, Subudhi Roy, he went to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is during 500 years back. And he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that my caste has been changed because they threw water from their pot on my head, and now this is, I cannot perform any Vedic rituals. And so, what is the rectification? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, "Just go to Vrindavan and chant the holy name of Krishna." And that's all. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not promote this casteism, but the idea is that devotional service is so pure, even if we are born in a lower caste or um, whatever our past situation is, whatever past birth is, whatever our sinful inclinations are, it doesn't matter. By practicing devotional service, we can become first class devotees. That is the main intention. And there is another example where there was a close associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His name was Ramananda Roy. He was actually also physically born in a Shudra family, but he was a king, or he was in one of the administration in Andhra Pradesh somewhere. And this is again 500 years back. And Ramananda Roy is actually an expansion of Vishakha Devi, who is an associate of Srimati Radharani. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in South India tour, he went to this place um, where he met Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy was coming with many Brahmanas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Brahmana family. As soon as he saw Ramananda Roy, he embraced, because he knows that Ramananda Roy is exclusively pure soul, and eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all the Brahmanas were looking with like um, uncomfortable feeling that how can a sannyasi embrace somebody who is born in a Shudra family? So they were that time place circumstances was casteism was too intense, and they would believe that Vaishnavism is for those who are Brahmanas, basically. So just 300 years back, Bhakti Vinod Thakur and his son Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is actually the spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, they both fought against this casteism, and they had to bear many consequences. Many people opposed, to such an extent that one person tried to kill Saraswati Thakur also, because he was saying that Vaishnavas are higher than Brahmanas. It's all about whoever take up devotional service is sufficiently purified and beyond the caste system. So, and Srila Prabhupada himself, when he came to the West, he said, I have come to create Brahmanas. So Brahmanas not something which is by birth. And Prabhupada would give Brahman initiation. So people, first they accept a guru. When they chant 16 rounds for at least 1 year, they can accept a guru, first initiation. And then they can get second initiation. Second initiation is Brahmanical initiation, where one gets a Brahmanical thread and chant Gayatri, which is a prerogative in the olden times only of Brahmanas. So if devotional service is dependent upon the birth, then the purity of devotional service is checked. So that is the generic theme. Now here is an example of sage Vasishtha to King Dilipa. This is from some quotes. From Padma Puran. The sage Vasishtha is telling to the king that, my dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magh, December, January. So Padma Puran says anybody can enter devotional service, not only those who are born in Brahmanical family. Devotional service is not dependent upon our past. In fact, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, anybody who takes shelter of me, whether they are low-born, Shudras, etc., etc., they can become pure devotees and they can come to me. So the idea, and Srimad Bhagavatam also explains, whatever varna or ashram we are in, if we use whatever our propensities are and direct it in the service of Krishna, in this life we can attain Krishna Prem, love of Krishna. In this life we can attain. All that one needs is independent of one's past. If one is now willing to, like, very good example is Jagai Madhai. They were very, very sinful people, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them. Then they started chanting the holy name of Krishna. So they had a very, very bad past, and they told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we are not qualified because we have done all kinds of sinful activities in this life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that's okay. Your background is not a concern, but don't make mistakes again. Strictly follow the 4 regulative principles, chant the holy name of Krishna, and don't offend devotees, don't criticize devotees. And if you do these things, you will go back home, back to Godhead in this life. So, like, obviously everyone can take bath. So just like everyone can take bath, everyone can execute devotional service. And this example is of, there is one King Vishwamitra Muni. He became a Brahma Rishi. So there was there's a long story where Vishwamitra Muni was a king and he was a Kshatriya, and he had many powerful weapons, um, and techniques to fight. Basically, he was Kshatriya, like Arjuna and others. So King Vishwamitra Muni was very powerful. And then there was a sage. The name of the sage was Vashishta. So there was a small contention over a cow. The Vashishta Muni had a cow. This cow was a Kamdhenu. Kamdhenu cow means she can give you whatever, she can fulfill any of your desire. That's why Kamdhenu, and give you as much milk as you want. So very resourceful cow. Whatever desire you want, she will fulfill. So the king, he was very attracted to this cow. This cow was with a sage, a Brahmana, whose name was Vashishta Muni. So Vishwamitra Muni went to Vasishta Muni and he said, I like your cow very much. Give me your cow. Vasishta Muni said, I will not give. This is my cow and my sustenance is based on this cow. I cannot give the cow. So Vishwamitra Muni said, then you have to fight. So Vishwamitra Muni used all the powers that he has learned from his gurus on different arrows and archery vidya, like how Arjuna and others would fight. He used all his military strength and um, um, kingly powers to fight Vasishta, and Vasishta, by his Brahminical power, could defeat all the kingly powers. Vasishta Muni was a simple man, but by the power of his austerities, he had many, because of his austerities and chanting of mantras, he had many powers. So he easily defeated the king. The king thought that I have been learning this archery vidya, Dhanush Vidya, for throughout my life, and I cannot defeat a Brahmana. So then the king realized, if I have to defeat King Sage Vasishta, then I have myself have to perform austerities. So instead of learning Dhanur Vidya, he actually started performing austerities, and eventually he became a Brahma Rishi. He became Sage Vishwamitra. And later on, Vishwamitra Muni also became the spiritual master for Lord Ramachandra. So that is an example how one born in a kingly family, a Kshatriya by birth, actually became a Brahma Rishi in the same life. So it is not dependent upon one's birth. Oh, somebody, Yatin Prabhu, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandana Pranam. So, Prabhuji, my question is, uh, is the Vaishnavism, you mentioned it is not based on the caste? Is it only for the Kali Yuga or for all the yugas?
Yeah, it's a good question, Prabhu. It's the principle is true, Prabhu, for all the yugas. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vibhagasa. It is based on Guna and Karma. It is not based on, he does not say Janma Vibhagasa. I mean, Krishna says there that I have created this one ashram dharma. It is based on Guna and Karma, means qualities and work. Whether we have Brahmanical qualities, Kshatriya qualities, but by default, in the previous yugas, because Kali Yuga is very degraded, the son of Kshatriya will naturally have Kshatriya qualities. So it is by default assumed that must be Kshatriya because son of Kshatriya, but it was still Guna Karma, but it was natural. In Kali Yuga, everything is mixed. It is said that Brahmanas, born in Brahmanas family, they eat cows and they do all kind of sinful activities. So everything is lost. Does that answer, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I have one more question on this. How can we understand, like in one of the Ekadashi Katha, we hear that under a king's rule, one of the Shudra was chanting the holy name of the Lord, and because it was an offense, the king's he wasn't getting rain and all that stuff, and he was getting his position was getting weak. So when he get to a sage, so the sage said that because one in your kingdom a Shudra is performing the Brahmanical thing, so that's why it is happening to you. So you must perform this vrata to get rid of it, or you should kill him. But he said, I cannot kill someone who is performing God's service. So then he says to perform this Ekadashi Katha. So how we understand this, like if a Shudra was performing some devotional service, but in previous ages,
Yeah.
so if
Prabhu,
someone asks us this, then how should we, or how should we understand this?
yeah, thank you. So Prabhu, it's a very good question. I've heard this story also. How I saw it is one has to be initiated by a bona fide guru. Like for example, Gayatri Mantra. So we tell devotees don't chant Gayatri Mantra unless we have a bona fide guru. Then you can chant those mantras. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Prabhu, it is the most merciful. Anybody can chant, there is no offense. But some mantras like Gayatri Mantras, it is meant only for Brahmanas to be chanted. Now, we may not be born in Brahmana family, but then if whichever birth we are in, we can chant the holy name of Krishna and gradually come to the point of faith and develop the qualities of goodness. By chanting Hare Krishna, it will uplift us, and then we can accept a bona fide guru and accept Brahmanical initiation and then chant Brahma, Gayatri and other mantras in this life also. But without that, it is not recommended. Does that answer? But Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, free for all to chant. Or not answer? Yatin Prabhu? Yatin Prabhu, your question got answered. Okay. Yeah, I think we can continue. Okay. So this is the first point that we are discussing, is the purity of devotional service is so pure, independent. Now, what makes one a lower birth? A lower birth means this from our past birth, we have a strong desire to enjoy. A sinful past. When we have sinful past now, in this life, we will have many desires or propensities. Our propensities for sinful activity in this life or what we have today is
Hare
actually
Krishna
this.
Prabhuji.
Yes,
Sorry, I think my internet got broke. So
I was thinking something like that.
yes, I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, you could not hear. Okay. So, Prabhu, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is free for all to chant. Anyone can chant, no qualification. But like Brahma Gayatri Mantra, those can be chanted only by Brahmanas. But that Brahmana does not have to be by birth. By chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can accept a Brahman initiation and then one can chant. Is that all right?
Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you. So what decides a lower birth? It's based on our proclivity towards sinful activity today. And proclivity towards sinful activity is because of mode of passion, ignorance. And Brahman is mode of goodness. But by practicing Krishna consciousness, one can become free from those proclivities. One can become free from mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and one can come to mode of goodness. And this is what we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, by rendering service to devotees of the Lord, one developed taste in hearing about Vasudeva. Vasudeva Katha Ruchi comes by Shan Mahaseva Vipra, by rendering service to devotees. Vasudev Katha Ruchi, it is described one who has developed the taste for hearing and chanting the names of the Lord and activities and pastimes of the Lord. When Krishna sitting in our heart sees that this Vaishnava has developed taste in hearing about me, then the Lord removes the impurities from our heart. When the impurities are removed, the mode of passion and ignorance are reduced, and one comes to the mode of goodness. And when one comes to the mode of goodness, it is called Bhavatar, it is called Naishtiki Bhakti. or the stage of Nishtha, where one comes to mode of goodness. So that is naturally a stage of a Brahman. So Brahman means mode of goodness, Kshatriya means goodness and passion, Vaishya means passion and ignorance, and Shuddha means ignorance. So that's why Krishna says Guna Karma. Guna means Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamogun. According to Guna, the modes are decided, and Krishna consciousness or devotional service, hearing and chanting Krishna's name, will take us to mode of goodness. And mode of goodness by default means Brahminical. So when he is situated in mode of goodness, he is a Brahmana, means one who Brahmana actually means one whose life is meant to realize Brahman is a Brahmana, or one who is willing to realize God, who is willing to realize Krishna. He is a Brahman. Brahman means his inclination is towards spiritual life and mode of goodness and free. But no matter what our birth is, devotional service is all pure to give us perfection in this life. That is what Rupa Goswami is saying here. Then this is something from Kashi Khand Skanda Puran, which says, in the country known as Mayura Dhwaja, the lower caste people who were considered less than Shudras were also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hand and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. So this is again from Skanda Puran, which says, Kashi Khanda Skanda Puran, that people who were lower caste, who were considered less than Shudras, they were initiated in Vaishnava cult and became first class Brahmanas, and they easily surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. That again shows that devotional service surpasses the defects from the birth. And in this birth, it is said nobody is born Brahmana, because we see it is said Kalo Shudra Sambhave. In Kali Yuga, everybody is born Shudra. That's what they say. But we can, Prabhupada said, Krishna conscious movement is meant to create Brahmanas. Then this is Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami says, any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmana. As much as the metal known as comes, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. So if you take bell metal and you mix mercury, it will turn into gold. Likewise, you take any person from any caste with any proclivities, sinful tendencies, inclinations, low birth, anybody you take, and you add the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and that person will turn into gold or a pure Vaishnava, independent of one's past. Why? Because the devotional service is so pure. A bona fide spiritual master, under the guidance of authorities, can turn anyone to a Vaishnava culture, so that naturally he may become the topmost position of a Brahmana. And a Vaishnava is considered as superior to Brahmana, because the purpose of Brahmana is to become a Vaishnava. If somebody has become a Vaishnava, chanting a Hare Krishna Mahamantra, following the regulative principles, then he easily surpasses Brahmana. This is from Manu Smriti. A Brahmana who, instead of studying the Vedas, engages himself in any other pursuits, being keen for honors, money, or worldly advantages, becomes a Shudra together with his whole family in this life. So Manusmriti says a Brahmana, the goal of a Brahmana is Pathan Pathan. Pathan Pathan means he studies scriptures and he discusses the scriptures. So a Brahmana who, instead of studying the Vedas, engages himself in other pursuit, like looking for honor, looking for wealth, worldly benefits, material desires, then becomes a Shudra together with his whole family in this life. Then the entire family becomes a Shudra, according to Manusmriti. So that again shows that if one is born a Brahmana family, he cannot say that I am a Brahmana. That won't be accepted in a learned society, or according to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata, Manusmriti, and Puranas. Rather, one has to do the activity of Brahmana, which is Pathan, Pathan, Yajan, Yajan. Pratigya means sacrifice, studying of scriptures, speaking on scriptures, mode of goodness. Yeah. And now this was purity of devotional service. That's the first thing we discussed, and how it is not based on the birth. And we saw many examples of those who were in lower birth but first class devotees. Some of them is Ramananda Roy, Haridas Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Pandit. They all were not born in Brahmana family, but they are pure devotees of the Lord. So it is not based on one's birth, but one's practices. And we quoted from Bhagavad Gita also, no matter what birth one is in, uh, um, Vaishya, Istri, Vaishya, Tatho Shudra, no matter what is our birth, if one takes up to Krishna consciousness, one can go back to God in this life, because devotional service is all pure. Now, the second, there are three aspects to this presentation. One is devotional service will give us perfection independent of our birth, will bring us to mode of goodness independent of our past habits. Second is the mystery of Vaishnavism. This is the mystery of Bhakti Yoga. Sri Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of a fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with the Prayaschitta, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principles of devotional service, he need not take to the Prayaschitta performances for reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is the mystery of Vaishnava or devotional culture. This is from Srila Prabhupada purport. So mystery of Vaishnavism means Vaishnavism has scope for fall down. It has scope. Other paths, a small mistake, there is a heavy price. Like we see Vishwamitra Muni, when he, King Vishwamitra initially, when he wanted to become a Brahmana, he performed many austerities for 1000 years. And then Indra became very insecure because he was attached to his position. And because he was attached to his position, he thought anybody who is performing austerities is actually to get my position. So he would become scared. So we see a lot of insecurity in Indra. And one example, this is those who have read Bhagavatam or have heard will connect easily with these stories. One of the example is Maharaj Prithu. Maharaj Prithu was performing horse sacrifices, and he completed 99 horse sacrifices. He was about to do the 100th horse sacrifice, and Indra became very insecure. Indra thought why he is doing 100 horse sacrifices is so that he can take my position. That's how one thing from one's own perspective, everything. And he thought the same way that Vishwamitra Muni is performing 1000-year-long sacrifices. It must be to take my position. So then he sent Apsara, and she was having this ankle bends, and she was meditating. This Apsara, she was meditating on. She stood in front of Vishwamitra Muni, King Vishwamitra. He was deep in meditation, and she started thinking of the king. And the king, in his heart, could sense some kind of attraction feeling towards a woman. That's how these vibrations, they communicate. When we have some kind of attached feelings, moha, some kind of moha towards opposite sex, they will also be similarly inclined towards us. Or when they are inclined towards us, then we may also be inclined towards them. That's how these forces and the desire works. If one has a desire, then the Lord, based on how strong is our desire, Lord may try to fulfill. And that act as a distraction to our Krishna consciousness. So Vishwamitra Muni, he became distracted. And then he opened his eyes and there was an Apsara, and she was kind of very attractive. So he got attracted to her and he sacrificed his austerities in order to be with her. And that's how uh, a girl, Shakuntala, was born. And because of this illicit relationship, because he became attached and there was an illicit relationship, he lost the power of all his 1,000 years long sacrifices. And then he understood that there was the hand of Indra in that. He was very upset that he sent her to distract me. And then he again started performing 1,000-year sacrifice to again try. After 1,000-year sacrifice, Indra again became insecure and he sent another girl, another Apsara. And she came and she started tinkling ankle bells and kind of meditating on the qualities of Vishwamitra Muni. King Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, this time he understood that last time, 1,000 years long sacrifices, I fell down. This time I don't want to make a mistake. So he opened his eyes, became very angry and cursed her. And because he became angry, he lost all the powers he gained in this 1,000 years. So he understood, first time I became victimized by lust, and then now I became victimized by anger. Krishna says lust, greed, and anger are the lust, anger, and greed are the three gateways to hell. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 17th chapter. So we see from these cases that a small fall down and there is a heavy price, but we don't see that in Bhakti Yoga, because Bhakti Yoga in itself is very pure. If somebody asks, like, sometime now Prabhupada says that Maya is very powerful. And why Maya is there? Maya is there to distract us from our Krishna consciousness. And she knows our weaknesses. So she is going to first, what my Guru Maharaj says, first Maya will single us out. First Maya will take us away from association. And then she will attack us. And because she knows our in and out, she may attack us in a Krishna conscious way also. Or no, she, like my Guru Maharaj says, she takes drop by drop. She takes such action that we will feel this is okay. This is okay. And then little bit more, she will deviate us and we will feel this is okay. And gradually, we won't even realize, but we have gone so far away from the principles of strict Krishna consciousness and have becoming weaker and weaker. And when we are sufficiently weak, she just makes one single blow and fell down like that. So one has to be very careful with Maya. So Prabhupada says that in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says Maya is very strong. So sometimes we may engage in activities which are not conducive for our Krishna consciousness. Rupa Goswami says, whatever is favorable for your Krishna consciousness, accept. Whatever is unfavorable, you reject it. And, like as I said, she takes drop by drop. And then slowly, when Maya attacks and when she takes away our Krishna consciousness drop by drop, we start becoming weak in our Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says, how strong in our Krishna consciousness can be judged by how much enthusiastic I am to chant, how much enthusiasm to read, how much enthusiasm to hear about Krishna, how much enthusiasm to associate with devotees. These are like the healthy sign of our Krishna consciousness. And very good example, as you see in a picture, is Bharat Maharaj. It is described, very advanced devotee on a stage of Bhava. His father was an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Lord Rishabdev. He was the king of the planet, left the king, came to the forest only to perform devotional service, very strict with his sadhana. But somehow or other, he got attached to a deer. And it didn't start all of a sudden. It did not start like the attachment is developed. It's a gradual process. He saw the deer, He saw it again. I mean, he wanted to save the deer. We know the story. So a deer started living with Bharat Maharaj, and he would look once in a while. And naturally, we hear from Bhagavad Gita, Dhyato Vishanpam from Sangasteshu Pujayate. By contemplation, attachment develops. From attachment, lust arises. Unfulfilled lust gives to anger. So he was looking at the deer. Then, while sleeping, he was thinking, if the deer is safe, open his eyes and see the deer is safe. Then he would sleep. Then his mind will be disturbed. What if somebody comes and eats the deer? Then he would take the deer on the lap and sleep with the deer. He would think about the deer may be hungry. Let me feed the deer. Let me take care of the deer very nicely. And gradually, he didn't even realize, but he started thinking of the deer while chanting his mantras to Lord Vishnu, while performing his yagyas and sacrifices. He was becoming very distracted and he was constantly thinking about deer. And that gradually he became attached to the deer. And when he fell down, um, when he died, he was searching for a deer and he fell from a cliff. He died and he was thinking about the deer. So he got a deer birth in the next life. But why this example comes here? Two reasons. One reason is, although you got a deer body, the advancement made in Krishna consciousness is never lost. And within 2 lives, he went back to Godhead. So it's not like, it's like, okay. And another thing is, if we may also make some mistakes. Lord Krishna says that even if one commits the most abominable activities, if one is properly situated again in one's Krishna consciousness, then there is no need of prayashchit. So when we make some mistake, ideally we should limit. We should curse ourselves for how can I do this? How degraded I am. I am hopeless. This prayashchit is good. It should not be lifelong prayashchit. Short time prayashchit is good. Lamentation is good. And then go back to Krishna consciousness very seriously and focus on sincere, strict sadhana, which is hearing and chanting. Prabhupada also says that because we have this instruction that anyone who is chanting the holy name of Krishna, there is no need of prayashchit. If one takes undue advantage of this statement and engage in sinful activities, thinking anyways I will keep performing devotional service and I will not have a reaction, then it is incriminated, because one of the offense to the holy name is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy names. And then if we are doing it thinking that I am chanting the holy name, so on that strength it's okay to commit sinful activities, it becomes a nam aparad, and that will weaken our chanting. And once our chanting is weakened, one of the effect of bad chanting is asat trishna. Asat trishna means attachment to material objects. When chanting is bad, we won't be absorbed in hearing. We cannot properly glorify the Lord speaking. Our material desires will increase. We'll become angry at a small thing. Some people say, what is the reason for anger? Bad sadhana. What is the reason for material desire? Bad sadhana. We all know that some days when we are weak in our Krishna consciousness, all the material desires flare up at once. So these are the ill effects of bad sadhana. So it is our spiritual practices, our chanting of the holy name, specifically chanting of the holy name in the morning, which gives us the strength to deal with the unfavorable circumstances. And Prabhupada says Kali Yuga means everywhere the circumstances are unfavorable, because Kali Yuga is advertisement for sense gratification. Everywhere we see opportunities. So what is the mystery of Vaishnavism? There is no need of prayashchit as long as after making a mistake, we are willing to dedicate our life in Vaishnava Dharma or Krishna, practicing Krishna consciousness. This is Krishna to Uddhav. Very beautiful, encouraging verse. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, one who has developed faith in hearing about Krishna, narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, Now, naturally, it goes hand in hand. The more we are attached to hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna's name, the less we will be attached to material desires and vice versa. So those who have awakened faith in narrations of my glories, it is said that the glories of the Lord are filled with divine potency. This is one of the verses that comes in Gopi Geet. Um, um, Shrimadatam. There is Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavipiriritam Palmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Jana. So there the gopis praise to Lord Krishna. Shravana Mangalam Srimadatam. That Shravana Mangalam means hearing about Krishna is Mangalam, all auspicious. And Srimadatam, Shri means the divine energy of the Lord. Shri refers to internal potency of Srimati Radharani. Srimadatam means the glorification of Krishna is filled with a divine potency. Likewise, the names of Krishna, the glories of Krishna, they have hidden internal internal spiritual energy they carry. Srimadatam. And it says, Kalmashapaham. Anybody who hears about the glories of the Lord, Kalmashapaham. Kalmash is the unwanted desires and habits in the heart. Paham. They are removed. Bhuvi Vinanti Bhurida Jana. So basically, glorification of the glories of the Lord, it is so auspicious. The pastimes of the Lord, the narrations of pure devotees of the Lord, the chanting Krishna's name, that they have an internal potency. And when one develops faith in that, because initially we may hear and we may not feel anything, but gradually we will see actually this is divine. When we see divinity in hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's name, faith will arise. Faith arises because of our own experiences also. So Krishna says to Uddhav, having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, because kalmash will go away, unwanted things will go away. Knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, one will gradually come to realize that sense gratification will lead to misery. But Maya is very powerful. Maya will tell us this sense gratification is okay. This will not lead me to misery. She may give us some realization, we are partially realized. So something we see that it is not good for us, but many things we see it's okay. But a person who has become purified and who have developed taste in hearing and chanting Krishna's name, he will know that all sense gratification leads to misery. But still being unable to renounce all sense gratification, my devotee remains happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. He knows sense gratification leads to misery, but he may still engage in sense gratification. Still. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that although one may give up the object for sense gratification, the desire to enjoy may remain. The desire to enjoy sense gratification remains. One is theoretically convinced not good for me, but the desire is there. Then Krishna says, Param Dristvani Vartate. Only on the basis of higher taste can we give up bodily sense gratification. There is no other way. Just our own absorption in Krishna. But that absorption in Krishna does not come so easy. It takes some good amount of time before we actually become absorbed in Krishna. So the middle phases where most of us are in is very difficult, because the taste will come, the deep absorption come at some point of time in the future when we are completely absorbed in Krishna. At this point of time, we may have little taste in Krishna consciousness, but many times we don't have taste in Krishna consciousness. And simultaneously, we have a lot of taste in sense gratification. So this becomes an unstable situation. And that's why Krishna says to Uddhav that that's okay. That's okay. So then sometime, that's why there is sadhana bhakti, means practice. try to do the right thing and say no to sense gratification. Then there comes a need for sankalpa or determination. I will not do intoxication. I will not have illicit sex. I will not eat or forbidden things and other things, and I will not engage in. There is a sankalpa, determination. Determination comes from a little faith. We begin with little faith. Everyone begins with little faith, and then when that grows, determination comes. Yet the taste is not so high that we can give up sense gratification. Heart is not purified, and the desire, which is from previous impressions of sense gratification, strong desires are there. So Krishna says, yes, I understand. But my devotee remains happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he sometimes engaged in sense gratification, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. So devotee, Krishna says, my devotee knows sense gratification will lead to misery. If I get into this, finished. If I engage in these sinful activities, there will be a huge reaction. My bhakti shakti will go. My effort will become null and void. I will lose the spiritual strength if I engage in these, and I cannot say purely practice Krishna consciousness or freely practice Krishna consciousness or whatever it is. So one knows this is not conducive for me. Yet one may engage in sense gratification. One may. So although my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities, then after engaging in sinful activities, one repents. When an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotional service as described by me, his heart becomes firmly situated in me. Thus, all material desires within the heart are destroyed. So there is this phase that devotees many times go through. Is beginning they're very strict, and then slowly they may engage in some sinful activities and they may repent, and they may fall down. Then they take up Krishna consciousness very seriously. They lament, they repent, they take a vow never to engage in anything not conducive, and they may still engage, and they again grow up, and this continues till a time one um, becomes more steady in devotional service, develop more faith, have more experiences and taste, and as the impurities go away, and finally one, after that up and down phase, then one may become more and more strict, and one strictness may keep on increasing as one love and devotion keeps on increasing. And this very good example we see is Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Initially, he would take money from his house, from his father, and he would buy the food from Jagannath temple. And he would invite sometimes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for prasad, and he would eat from there, and he would be happy. And then he thought, no, this is not good. I'm in renounced order, taking money from my parents. Then he stopped taking that money, and he would beg food outside Jagannath Mandir. People would come and give him. Later on, he felt, begging food is also not good. Then Raghunath Das Goswami thought that if I'm begging, then I have some expectation. Maybe they will give me, they will give me, they will give me. They are not giving me. Why they didn't give me? I'm crying and they didn't give me. Maybe the other person will give me. All these thoughts are coming, which are distracting him for Krishna consciousness. He gave up that, and then he started eating the food rejected, which is like, when no food is sold, no beggars are there, and then it is thrown to the cows eat, and cows also reject the food, and that is just to be trashed. And Raghunath Das Goswami will go to that rejected food, take and eat those, and then he felt little more pacified, but he would eat the quantity that he liked. But later on, when he came to Vrindavan, he further started reducing his sleep, reducing his eating to drinking. He reduced his eating to just drinking a little bit of buttermilk every day, and that all was his diet. Increase his chanting to 128 rounds every day. So he increase his chanting, reduce his sleeping, reduce his eating. So, and that became the regulated principle of Raghunath Das Goswami. His regulated principle there was, I would not eat anything more than a leaf cup of buttermilk. That's all my diet is. And every day he would speak on Chaitanya Charitamrita, on Mahaprabhu's pastimes for 3 hours. and then he would write books, and that was his status of Krishna consciousness. So likewise, when we began with some bad habits, and we may here and there, but as we become more and more stronger and stricter, we our quality, our quantity, and our regulatory principles will all keep on increasing further and further. And that is also dependent upon one's faith. As the faith increases, one wants to do more. And then one feels like after doing a lot, one feels like I'm not doing sufficient. I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to do this also, this also. His eagerness, enthusiasm, faith, as they increase, the material desires will reduce to that much greater extent. And this is gradually, because the thing is, we are taking the medicine, which is the holy name, and sometime we may fall down. Then the mystery of Vaishnavism is keep on chanting. Even if something wrong happens, next day chant, next day chant, next day chant. Don't give up your Krishna consciousness. You're hearing, your association, you're offering food to Krishna. Sometimes we become familiar with the process. If you're practicing process for a long time, then we may think, oh, what is the need for offering food to Krishna? It's okay. Krishna will eat it. Let me eat it now. So then sometime when we become familiar, or why to be so strict while chanting, it's okay. In the beginning, I used to sit and I used to chant strictly, but now it's okay. While driving, I will chant. While talking, I will chant. While doing various cleaning things also, I will chant. Somehow in a day, whole day, here and there, I'll finish my round. So that is developing familiarity with the holy name, with offering food to Krishna. Or, oh, what will these devotees speak? It's now, I have heard everything, I know everything. There is nothing new anyway, so it's okay not to take any association. So this is the process of familiarity. The natural state of a conditioned soul is develop familiarity with everything, with the holy name, with offering food to Krishna, with hearing about Krishna, with the devotees, with the services. Oh, I am doing service for so many years. It's okay if I don't do service. Somehow or other, I can remain Krishna conscious anyways. Oh, I am going to temple anyways. So many times. It's okay if I don't go frequently now. So this is how Maya takes is drop by drop. Drop by drop means our enthusiasm to practice Krishna consciousness will reduce. If that thing we can avoid, then even if we perform sinful activities once in a while, we will cover up. But if we weaken our sadhana, our spiritual practices, then that is not good. And that's where association helps. Because then we see other devotees and they are so enthusiastic. They are inviting more and more devotees for prasadam. They are starting new preaching programs. They are discussing Krishna Katha. They are any free time they are engaging in Krishna service. So that enthusiasm will rub on us. The moment we become weak in our Krishna consciousness, go and look for an enthusiastic association. Those who are extending ourselves. Like it is described, we are either progressing in our Krishna consciousness or we are going down. There is no stable phase. Either we are doing more and we are progressing, or we are developing familiarity and we are reducing and becoming weaker and weaker. That's why if we give up association, then there is nobody to check us. Or bad association means somebody says it's okay, Prabhu, all these things, why? And then we also think, yeah, you are right. It's anyways very difficult. Let's leave it. Let's give it up. So that is bad association. Enthusiastic association. That's why my Guru Maharaj says the best service you can do to the society is set a good example. The wife should set a good example for the husband. The husband should get a good example for the wife. They both should be in a positive feedback, not a negative feedback. Negative feedback means the wife is like, it's okay if you don't offer. Husband like, yeah, you are right. It's okay. It's okay if you don't go to temple today. It's anyway so difficult and see snow is there and jam is there. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So negative feedback means each person is discouraging to grow. Positive feedback means one person becomes weak, the other person is like fire. And then if we are not getting it at home, then we should look for that association outside. We will be the product of our association. Shakespeare said, you show me your friends, I will tell you who you are. So if our association is like we want to go back to Godhead. Then we will feel like, yes, I want to go back to Godhead. If association is like, we want wealth, women and followers and fame and position and power, then we will be like, yeah, that's what I want. So it becomes very, very important. But if we have good association and if we are strict in our sadhana, then even though we make here and there a mistake, Krishna says it's okay. We will come back to it. And then this is about Krishna to Uddhav, about the mystery of Vaishnavism. Okay, I think then the last topic is the supremacy of bhakti, and this we will discuss next week. And let's see if there is any discussion for today. Any questions, discussions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavat pranam.
Prabhuji, how do we know, like, when it is weakening our devotion? But
It is said when our devotional service weakens, the first person who will come to know is we. We will come to know. The second person who will come to know is Guru. Guru will come to know. The third person is the whole world will come to know. कि अभी तो ये नीचे जा रहे हैं. But the first person who will come to know is we. How? How do we come to know? Check your enthusiasm. Sometimes chanting may go here and there. It doesn't matter if we are fully absorbed in chanting or not. What matters is, are we sincerely trying? That's what matters. There are many factors that affect our chanting. But am I strict about am I giving my best? That is a good sign. Am I enthusiastic to hear, to read, to serve, to associate? Am I trying to use most of my time? Am I careful of I should not speak anything, any fault, any criticism? I should not find fault even mentally amongst devotees. I should try to dovetail everything according to Krishna consciousness. If we are careful, enthusiastic, if we have a desire to basically make advancement, rapid progress, eagerness to grow, these are all good signs, Mataji. Does that answer?
yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mata.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, hearing, suppose, like, maybe out of 4, maybe, like, we are interested, maybe chanting and hearing, say example, for reading each weekend, like, how do we make it?
That is okay. If you are enthusiastic in few of the limbs, you do that more. And if you're less enthusiastic in other, you do it a minimum and do more what you like to do. And we may have this natural interest and inclination. It's okay to go with them. That's still a sign of good enthusiasm, as long as you have a strong enthusiasm to grow through maybe the path that you are most interested in, which is all right. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sukumari Devi. Okay. Anyone else has any discussions before we end? Okay. Prabhuji's and Mataji's, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Pranam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.